Most of us grew up believing that change should happen in a straight line. You make a decision, you move forward, and your life improves. But real life transitions almost never work like that. Hey, I'm Sarah and welcome to Wild Rose Path. If you're in the messy middle right now, you might feel like there's that sense of going one step forward, two steps back, or you get blistering like clarity as well and think, this is it, I know where I'm going, I know what I've got to do, fantastic. Go to bed one day feeling so clear, got it all worked out. Next day, back into this like absolute spiral of confusion. I have no idea what's happening. Life is so confusing. Or periods of real energy and being motivated or pumped to do something, followed by just absolute collapse, you know? And how many times when that happens to us do we feel like we take it personally, you know, we're doing something wrong, there is something wrong with us. But yeah, what if there's not something wrong with us? This is just a normal part of the process. It's just that because we've been thinking about it in such a linear way, you know, the old ends, falls away, then we move through change and come out the other side into our new lives, all in a fairly quickly time frame. Then we just think we're doing it wrong. But if change, we sort of see change moving in cycles more than straight lines, it becomes more of a normal process. We can see that the messy middle is actually part of the process. So I've come to see life transitions as moving through more of a spiral than a straight line or even a circle. And in that spiral, you know, you can travel up and down a spiral. You can go up and down, so round and round, up and down. You can also go on a spiral to like the same point on the spiral, but maybe higher up. So, you know, say if you're at this point on the spiral here, and then you move around and you're going higher as well because it's a spiral, not a circle. And then eventually you can come to the same point as you were, just on the next rung up of the spiral. And I often see that in situations where we've maybe not learnt the lessons the first time round, and we've gone a lot up or around the spiral and got to the same point again, and then the universe is saying, you didn't quite learn those lessons last time, let's go through that again. But I digress. Let's talk about the actual life transition spiral for a moment. So I'll just mention it briefly. Again, if you want to go into this spiral a bit deeper, I talk about each stage a little bit more deeply in my free workshop, which is Finding Your Footing After a Life Transition. I will pop a link to that in the description below, and you can sign up and get that instantly, and it goes a little bit deeper into each stage. And also we have a nice little meditation practice in the middle where we orient ourselves as well, giving ourselves a bit of a map to where on earth we are at in life transitions. So the first part of the spiral, we see in this like fracture, there's a beginning fracture, so where the old has ended essentially. So that might look really obvious, you know, like the end of a relationship or a career or the death of somebody close, something has ended. It can be more subtle as well. So it can be like an identity shift. And for those of you who are like, you know, getting into the 40s now, you may find it at that time as well, the big one coming up there, where, you know, everything that came before, just who you are, your beliefs, don't seem to fit anymore. And that's that fracture, that ending. And from there we often move into this like descent, and I like to call it the burning, because sometimes everything burns down and our life kind of feels like it's just burnt down into ashes. You know, it can be a very dramatic descent, and it literally everything in your life just seems to not fit anymore or just end. Or it can be more subtle as well, just that feeling of letting go of the old and just drifting down into the next stage, which is like the liminal space. And that's the in-between, that's the real in-between stage where the old has kind of ended and the new has not yet started, and you are feeling pretty lost, perhaps even a little bit broken. And again, this is a normal part of the process. So I've made a video about the liminal stage. I'll put that there. And you can have a look at that if you're feeling like you're in that state. And eventually after the liminal space, we have what is called the threshold. And that's like at the end of the liminal stage. We're still in that space, but we're starting to move towards the new. We're maybe a bit more orientated to where we're at. Maybe some signals have started to emerge about what the new life or the new self may be offering us, where we're going. We've got a little bit of direction, even if we haven't started on the path yet. Beyond the thresholds, if we can cross that, we then move into sort of integration and rebuilding, and that's where we start to build the new. We start to try on things, new identities, beliefs about ourselves, narratives, situations, if it's a more practical thing. And eventually moving into sovereignty, which is being really aligned with ourselves, trusting our inner wisdom, just being really in our own power, and having moved into that new phase of our lives and really integrated that. And able to be, I think emotionally as well, we're in a lot more of a clearer space when we move along the spiral. At the beginning of the spiral, we can be really emotionally raw. There can be so much grief to process and alchemize. So I came up with this spiral more as like, not as like a diagnosis or a, this is where you're at, so you must do this kind of thing, but more as like a map. And also a map for myself, really, firstly, because I noticed I've been through so many different types of life transitions throughout my life so far. And the one I've been going through recently, having hit my 40s, is probably in a way the deepest, the strongest, but also on the outside, the most subtle, If you're going through the end of a relationship or a career change or somebody's died, that's very obvious to people, even further out of your personal circle, perhaps. People can see what's going on there, but this one is a lot more internal and a lot more subtle. But I think so many of us go through it, and we need to normalize that and say this, this is a normal part of the process. And I see you're going through that as well. This is how it's coming out for me. How's it coming out for you? So it's just a map that kind of normalizes, confusion is part of the process. Pauses are part of the process. Going between states are part of the process. Unfortunately, you're not probably just going to climb and climb and climb. There's times when you slide back down. There's times when you think you're rebuilding things and you slide straight back down into that liminal space of absolute confusion. So it's just really a map that helps you realize where you're at, and just that this is normal. You're not broken. This is part of the process, and that people are going through this. Many of us are at different stages, but we're all kind of traversing this same kind of pattern, really. So please know if you're in the middle of something messy, that you're not lost, you're not doing it wrong or anything like that. You're just probably moving through one of these stages and moving up and down this spiral. I think when you start to see change as something that moves in cycles rather than a linear straight line, a lot of the confusion that you can get during that time kind of disappears, and the transition itself can start to make more sense. And something I'll explore in other videos as well is once we do have a bit of a map for where we're going and what stage we're in, then when we inevitably go through another life transition, because we are human and we're meant to go through more than just one, we go through so many, big and little. When we have a map and we go through that again, we may then repeat a life transition, but we have a bit more sense of clarity about where we're at, what could possibly happen next, how to move through with grace, what faster, can be faster in moving through the process in a more grounded way, and almost looking out for those little red flags, that perhaps in a previous time we may have rushed through a section too quickly to try and get to the rebuilding, for example. So yeah, this map has kind of made sense of things for me, and hopefully, you know, if it makes sense for you, let me know in the comments. I've done some more videos, and I'm doing some more videos about different stages of the spiral, and like I say, if you want a little bit more in-depth look at the spiral, and also to try and spend a bit of time orienting yourself to where you're at and maybe what possibilities could be going forwards, then do check out the free workshop. I will pop a link in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you soon on the path.